Came across a BBC report which I think is worth a little bit of commentary, and the headline is as follows. I probably won't read all of this out, but I'll certainly put a link as I always do. Government buildings to fly Union flag every day. All government buildings in England, Wales, and Scotland will fly the Union flag every day following new guidance from the Culture Department. Currently, flags are only required to be flown on certain days, such as the Queen's birthday. Culture Secretary Oliver Dowden described the flags as a proud reminder of our history and the ties that bind us. Government buildings in Northern Ireland are covered by a separate law. Obviously, the situation in Ulster is more complicated. The guidance released by the Digital Culture, Media and Sport Department says the Union flag should be flown every day except on those occasions when another flag is being flown. Guidance will only apply from the summer. The announcement comes after BBC Breakfast host Charlie State received criticism for joking during a TV interview about the size of the Union flag behind Community Secretary Robert Jenrick. Um, so the secretary appeared with the Union flag and a picture of the Queen. The Union flag first appeared in 1606 when James VI of Scotland, James I of England, um, ascended to the throne in England. The flag combined two flags of England and Scotland's patron saints, the Red Cross of St George and the White Cross of St Andrew. The Red Cross of St Patrick was added later. That came with the Act of Union of 1801, I believe, when Ireland became the Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland in 1801. Um, Anyway, the report's not that long. Yeah, I don't need to read it all out, so I'll put a link to that. I welcome this, and this is why. I do not see it as jingoism. I do not see it as bravado. I think it's totally appropriate. Um, I mean, this is just in keeping with other great powers that have their national flags on display. The point here is this is government buildings. It's not as if people are being forced to salute the flag. It's not like people are being pressured to wear UK lapels. I do think that sometimes if patriotism is too in your face, it can be a bit boorish and off-putting. But I honestly don't see this as unhealthy. Actually, I should say here in Sunderland, our local civic centre flies the Union Jack every day anyway, so it isn't really going to change anything here. I guess that's just a local discretion. I don't know what's like in other towns and cities, but I welcome it. And I would say, looking at the comments, inevitably there are cynics saying it's just a PR stunt, it's inward-looking nationalism, it's another way, as one person rather crudely put it, of showing you that you've got a small willy. That's how they see it, these sneering, cynical comments. If your first response to seeing our national flag is to sneer and think that it's only a PR stunt, then I would honestly question how happy you are living in this country. I don't mean like leave the country, I'm not saying that. I mean, honestly, people who think that patriotism is just a negative thing and it's something to sneer at, I mean, You know, it's like I say, it would be different if it was kind of being forced on people. And for example, were being, like, let's say we had a situation where every town or city centre required all citizens to salute the flag at 2 p.m. or something like that. That sort of situation would be more like a totalitarian state, and it would be off-putting, and I certainly wouldn't favour that. But this idea that the display of our national flag on government buildings is somehow a bad thing is ridiculous. Is it the priority for the government? Probably not. No. I think that one area where I agree with Labour on, I do think there should be an inquiry into COVID. Yesterday we marked the first anniversary of lockdown and, 126,000 dead. That is the biggest issue in this country at the moment and probably will be for a long time. There's many, many families out there suffering. So certainly I don't think this is our priority. But at the same time, I don't think it's something to sneer about. Um, I think that in Scotland it'll probably be a powder keg issue. The nationalists, of course, will pick up a stink. I remember Nicola Sturgeon infamously didn't have the flag when the Queen visited her at Holyrood. She had the Scottish Saltire, the flag of St Andrews, but not the Union flag, which was just crass political statement. Also, recently the SNP ordered EU flags to be flown. Now, to me, as someone who voted Remain, that's just petty. It's just saying we're going to do this because we want to make a protest. It's ridiculous, really. If people want to buy the EU flag on eBay and fly it, that's up to them. I'm not going to say they shouldn't be allowed to do that. But for the devolved government in Scotland to do that, pretty pathetic because we're not in the EU. Whether people like it or not, we've left the EU. That's just the situation. So to just fly the EU flag, it just seems a bit strange. And I still think the SNP logic of let's rejoin a 47-year-old union in order that we become independent from a 400-year-old union, it doesn't make any sense. The logic just doesn't make sense. Um, Another thing that doesn't make sense is the way that the democratic mandate of Better Together has just totally been ignored. I keep raising the point that more Scots, by actual numbers, I'm not talking about, some sort of perception, I'm talking about the actual numbers. More Scots voted to stay in the UK in 2014 than stay in the EU in 2016. If you don't believe me, check it out. Check out the data, look at the data. That's just a fact. Um, but the SNP is probably going to fragment before these local elections. I think they're already on rocky ground, internally speaking. Nevertheless, the Unionist Party certainly can't be complacent. Scotland's always, I don't think you can't take the public for granted and you can't be complacent about what results are going to be, especially in Scotland. Um, but yeah, I mean, our national flag is our national flag. If your knee-jerk response is something to be ashamed of or feel bad about, then that's your problem. But frankly, people who wave the EU flag but say, "Oh, well, you're a little Englander if you wave the UK flag." Well, the EU federalist project of a United States of Europe, ostensibly that initiative would be a unified state eventually. So wouldn't that be a sort of European nationalism? You know, it's still a flag. It's still a symbol of something. So I think their logic and their position is just totally contradictory. Um, Here in Sunderland, I should say, we did fly another flag for the Orlando massacre. We put up the gay pride flag, which I thought was a suitable and good gesture, a solidarity with the victims of that atrocity. Um, but the UK flag flies here, and long may it continue. I just don't see why it's such a big deal. Like I say, is it the government's priority? No. I think that the way NHS staff have been treated with a 1% pay rise, and then the ridiculous excuses ministers have come out with when Dominic Cummings gets the sort of severance package that he got, it's a travesty. So there's a lot of reasonable areas to criticise the Tories on, and it might well be that they're doing this as a political stunt for populist reasons. But in of itself, I don't think it's a bad thing. I also resent the idea that it's only a domain of right wingers. You can be a patriotic left wing person, you could believe in Labour rights, you can dislike a lot of the things the Tories do, but you could still love your country. So I reject this idea it's only the right and conservatives who are patriotic. I certainly wouldn't call myself a conservative. I'm centre left on certain areas, but I support it. I just don't think it's something to shun. Um, that's all. Thanks for watching.